How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over the results of the Dark Surge test. I wanted to do a big test, over 100 maps of does the Dark Surge pets, or do the Dark Surge pets rather, affect the chance for spawning bosses. So the majority of the money that is coming from Dark Surge is actually coming from the Edict drops, as you can see here. These are the majority of the money that you're getting. There's more so when they drop as getting Edicts of Doom rather than these other ones here. Some things that I did notice is that when you are doing these on maps where you are getting the cards, quant does affect the amount of edicts that the bosses are dropping. So when you're doing these on higher quant maps, you are getting more edicts to actually drop from the bosses when they actually drop. So when I'm doing these in T8 or in Profound with Netherrealm juice pumping up the quant while following cards and everything, then I'm frequently getting 4 to 5 drops from the bosses at once, rather than getting one basically at most if you're doing this where you're just not chasing cards. So for the test that I did all the exact same map, which was all Demimin Village, or Grove of Calamity and Thunder. And we pushed this for 110 maps total. We did 55 maps in each layout here. And we ended up getting, actually, surprisingly, the exact same amount in both. I figured there'd be a difference of like one, maybe on one or the other, but what it kind of goes to show is that the significance of the actual pets themselves are not affecting the boss drops. So the pets themselves are obviously going to affect your ability to see the currency rewards or legendary item rewards, etc. from the bosses, but the boss spawns themselves appear to be independent of the actual reward drops. So what that means is you don't actually need the Dark Surge pets in order to farm bosses. So if you are going to run a tree where you are purposely going out of your way in order to get the Dark Surge things here, where you are going after bosses, you want to be going after this heretical card here, chasing cards, because this one is going to be the one that is going to pump out the majority of your money here. So this is the actual wrong tree. You would actually want it to be like this. You would actually want to make sure that you are, again, you're going after this heretical card, and you want to increase your chance at getting Edict of Doom, just because that is going to give you more. So outside of that, again, I did my test all exactly the same on the exact same map. 0 Netherrealm, 0 anything else. One thing I did notice throughout this test is I did end up doing another batch that I did end up dropping the data for, which I did a batch of about 50 maps with using the blue compass. And throughout that 50 maps with the blue compass, I actually got 0 boss spawns. So in the data here, there was a point where this was going further, but everything after 55 is where I started using the compass instead of just doing the normal boss spawn, and the number of bosses that I was getting dropped dramatically. So I'm talking about here, I was getting at least like 1 boss spawn roughly every 10 maps or so, and then as soon as I swapped to using the blue compass, I went 50 maps in a row without getting a boss. So I don't know if there's something bugged with the compass, or if the blue compass itself has a negative chance for the bosses to spawn in comparison to the purple compass. So the purple compass says it increases the chances of bosses spawning, and the blue compass doesn't say anything about it. So I don't know if the purple compass is just making it seem like it's doing more than it is because of the fact that it is, again, I don't know if it's just because it is, yeah, I'm not really sure. But all I know is that I ran 50 maps in a row. I didn't get any bosses to spawn while using the blue compass. I reported it as a bug, because it seems like it might be a bug. I also was getting bosses that were spawning that weren't dropping edicts, which this behavior was not occurring earlier in the league. So I'm not sure what's going on with this as well. I wouldn't necessarily advocate for doing Dark Surge right now, especially with the current prices. But this data is important to me. I wanted to make sure I got it because people were asking about it, right? People are saying they're being told that Dark Surge is useless if you don't have the pet and then you can't run it, and it's just not true. This is one of the few strategies where Edict drops. In a typical circumstance where the bosses aren't bugged, you're getting edicts from the bosses still as normal. I was running this on T7 while leveling quite a bit, and my Dark Surge maps were spawning bosses, and the bosses were dropping loot and dropping a handful of edicts like they always were. So something did appear to change recently, but either way, the data stays the same. The total amount of actual bosses that were spawned was the same on with pets and without. So I recommend, if you guys feel like I didn't do enough maps with only doing 110 maps total, that you try to do this yourself, collect the data yourself, and tell me if you happen to get something different, because from my experience, I wasn't seeing anything different. So I think we're going to call that one a wrap and basically say again, yes, if you have the pets, they are good for getting the other rewards, which do start to kick in as soon as you get to T8. You are starting to see the actual get FE drops from the currency rewards, but they're very, very rare. And like the compass rewards, I think I saw once in 110 maps on T8, so they're not common enough to even justify caring about. And the rest of the loot, all of the gear and legendary, I didn't get anything special out of those. The best thing that came out of this test of just spamming 110 maps is I happened to get lucky enough to get 2 wind breath convergences, which pretty much paid for everything. So, yeah. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And other than that, see you in the next one.